So, hello everyone, and welcome to the 41st lesson of A Course in Miracles. As always, I am so very excited about tonight's session, and Happy New Year. It is January 31st when we're recording this, so Happy New Year. And I wanted to just do a call for us to kind of refocus and have an intention for this year. And so I'm going to get right into it. The 41st lesson of A Course in Miracles is God goes with me wherever I go. God goes with me wherever I go. We can never be alone, because God is with us wherever we go. How comforting and empowering to know that. Absorb that, everyone, to know that God goes with you wherever you go. We are never alone, never separated from God, never separated from our own light, our own beauty, and our own power. So I'm going to get right into the session tonight, y'all. And the title of tonight is Now is the Time. Now is the time. Now is the time to do what, you ask. Now is the time for the collective, all of us who inhabit this planet, to step into our power. Now is the time to be intentional about the industries that we support with our time, with our energy, and with our money. Now is the time for us to stop playing small. Stop playing small. And when I say stop playing small, I mean exactly that. When we cower back from our power, when we don't want to speak about our abilities because we don't want to seem arrogant, that is not true humility. That is the ego's definition of humility. It's false humility. And we're going to refer to both A Course in Miracles and Conversations with God about this very topic. So I want us to go first to A Course in Miracles in page 177. And I love this chapter, y'all, because he talks about the difference between grandeur and grandiosity, because there is a difference. And so I'm going to start on page 177 in paragraph 8. Jesus starts out, and I love this, how he starts it out. He says, whenever you question your value, say to yourself, God himself is incomplete without me. God himself is incomplete without me. He says, remember this when the ego speaks, and you will not hear it. The truth about you is so lofty, Jesus says, that nothing unworthy of God is worthy of you. If it's not worthy of God, it's not worthy of you. And he says, choose then what you want in these terms, and accept nothing that you would not offer to God as wholly fitting for him. You do not want anything else. Return your part to him, and he will give you all of himself in exchange for the return of what belongs to him and renders him complete. And then Jesus goes into grandeur versus grandiosity. So Jesus says, grandeur is of God and only of him. Therefore, it is in you. Whenever you become aware of it, however dimly, you abandon the ego automatically, because in the presence of grandeur, the meaningless of the ego becomes perfectly apparent. When this occurs, even though it does not understand it, saying that the ego does not understand it, the ego believes that its enemy has struck and attempts to offer gifts to induce you to return to its protection, the ego's protection, which is self-inflation. It says self-inflation is the only offering the ego can make. The grandiosity of the ego is its alternative to the grandeur of God. And then Jesus says, which will you choose? And he continues and says, grandiosity is always a cover for despair, which I thought was so deep. I thought about when you're around somebody who's really, really arrogant and always bragging, how there is a sense of desperation with them, that they have to somehow prove to you and themselves that they are worthy. And Jesus says, he continues, he says, it is without hope, talking about grandiosity. It is without hope because it is not real. It is an attempt to counteract your littleness based on the belief that the littleness is real. Without this belief, grandiosity is meaningless, and you could not possibly want it. And I wanted to skip and go to page 179 of A Course in Miracles, where in chapter 9, sentences 6 through 8, and it says, grandiosity is delusional because it is used to replace your grandeur. Yet what God has created cannot be replaced. God is incomplete without you because his grandeur is total and you cannot be missing from it. And so again, we hear that God is incomplete without us. And so we have been conditioned, y'all, to think that in order to assert our talents, our gifts, to speak of our oneness with God, that is arrogance. But Jesus says God is incomplete without you because God's grandeur is total and you cannot be missing from it. So these are not just nice words that Jesus is saying to make us feel good about ourselves. This is our truth. This is our holiness. Our connection with God is the essence of who we are. This cannot be discounted. So own it. Own your holiness. Own your grandeur. To deny it is not spirituality. To deny it is not spirituality. We've been conditioned to think that if somebody compliments us or wants to highlight our abilities, we cower down and try to lessen it. Oh, it's not that good. It's trying to act as if, I don't want to seem too much. We are too much, and we will be led to graciously sharing our gifts. But that is not our problem. I think our problem is that we see ourselves as very small. That is our problem. And so this is about us owning that which we are and giving ourselves permission to assert, you know what? God does live in me. God does live in me. So I'm going to go to Conversations with God, Book 3, because God talks some more about this concept of acknowledging that He is within us. So I'm going to go to Book 3, Conversations with God. I'm going to go to pages 285 to 287. And everyone knows my love of Conversations with God. And in Book 3, He does not mince His words, y'all. He does not mince His words. So I'm going to start on page 285. And it says, so Neale starts out and he says, how can a person be I guess God was talking about being separate from your own truth. And so Neale says, how can a person be separate from his or her own truth? And so God says, by ignoring it, by seeing it and denying it, or by changing it, twisting it, contorting it to fit a preconceived notion you have about what must be. So God continues, he says, take the question with which you started off here. You asked, is there life on other planets? And God says, I answered, of course. I said, of course, because the evidence is so obvious. It's so obvious that I'm surprised you even asked the question. And God continues, he said, yet this is how a person can be separate from his own truth. By looking truth in the eye so squarely, he can't miss it, and then denying what he sees. Denial is the mechanism here. And nowhere is denial more insidious than in self-denial. And he says, you've spent a lifetime denying who and what you really are. He said, it would be sad enough if you limited your denials to less personal things, such as your depletion of the ozone layer, your mistreatment of old growth forests, your horrible treatment of your young. He says, but you are not content with denying all of that you see around you. You won't rest until you deny all that you see within you as well. And he says, you see goodness and compassion within you, but you deny it. You see wisdom within you, but you deny it. You see infinite possibility within you, but you deny it. And you see and experience God within you, yet you deny it. You deny that I'm within you, that I am you. And in this, you deny me, my rightful and obvious place. And so Neale says, I have not and do not deny you. And so God says, you admit that you are God? And Neale says, well, I wouldn't say that. And God says, exactly. And I tell you this, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. By your very thoughts, you will deny me. By your very words, you will deny me. By your very actions, you will deny me. He says, you know in your heart that I am with you, in you, that we are one, yet you deny me. Oh, some of you say, I exist, all right, but away from you, way out there somewhere. And the further away you imagine me to be, the further away you step from your own truth. As with so much else in life, From depletion of your planet's natural resources to the abuse of children and so many of your homes. You see it, but you don't believe it. And so some of this was tough to read, right? God comes in book 3, God does not miss his word. So, but it's powerful to see how Neale was so indignant about, you know what, because at this point, this is book 3 that Neale has written. So he's gone through the first iteration, he's gone through the second book. This is the third book. So he says it with conviction. I do not deny you. And God said, so you admit that you are God? And he's like, so that is the point that God is making. When I tell people that we are God, they grow silent. You know, we have not grown up hearing that. But it is not spirituality to deny that which we are. There is nothing small about us. We are expansive. We are creators. We are immortal even. We don't die. We shed these bodies, but we live forever, right? We've been conditioned into feeling small and to follow instructions and do what we're told. We've played for a little while with this, but now is the time to throw all that away and be that which we are, to demonstrate our sovereignty, to raise our vibration, and to love ourselves and one another. The most powerful force in this entire universe is love. And now is the time. Why is now the time? Now is the time, y'all, because our beautiful planet Gaia is beginning to ascend to the 5th dimension, right? And so many of the structures that have been able to thrive are going to be falling away. So now is the time to start investing in you, to start developing the gifts, talents, and abilities you were born with. Stop pushing away that urge you have to paint or crochet or play the guitar or develop that business idea you've been sitting on for so long. It is time to start doing the things that give you joy, to do the things that you've always wanted to do, but never made the time to do because you always made your job your priority. You gave your job 100% of yourself. Listen to me, y'all. Listen. If no other time has shown us, these past couple of years have shown us that we can be thrown away at any time by those who are seemingly in power. If we do not do what we're told and directed to do, we have seen there is no hesitation in us being terminated from our jobs, ostracized. There is no hesitation in them limiting our travel and our ability to pursue higher education or even go to the grocery store. There is no hesitation. We are disposable. So many of us have learned and experienced that even if we do comply with all the mandates and the rules and the prerequisites, it still is not enough for us to gain our freedom from these authorities. We are still disposable to the powers that be. So my brothers and sisters, let's invest in us, because we will never throw ourselves away. Let's invest time and resources in strengthening those abilities that will serve us if and when we no longer had our day jobs. Because again, Gaia is ascending, right? And what does that mean? So the fifth dimension is not so much a place, but rather a space where higher levels of consciousness begin to open up and become more available for us. And we've experienced and realized that we are all one in this space. Many things that have been done in the dark will come to the light in this fifth dimension. It is within this fifth dimension that the unloving structures that are in place will begin to fail, such as the banking industry, the education system, and even the food distribution system, which contains poisons if you dare to read the list of ingredients, which I encourage everyone to do. You will recognize that the food systems will not survive in the fifth dimension. So when we create and move into this loving space, we, the people, right, will have an opportunity to exchange goods and services among one another instead of depending on these unloving structures to provide our needs. So if you have been drawn to tend a garden and grow organic foods, your services and products will be invaluable to this new world. If you feel the urge to knit or sew or sing or do Reiki or, do whatever, develop psychic abilities, this is your soul tapping you on the shoulder for you to invest in those interests and grow and master them. Our clue to what we are guided to do is in that which gives us joy. What are you drawn to? What makes you happy? What do you lose time doing? And you look up and it's like, wow, 2 hours has passed and it feels like 10 minutes. What business idea keeps coming up in your awareness? Do not dismiss this because it is your key to your future. Many of these abilities will be very helpful as we move into this more community-based world where we do not send our children to a building to learn, but rather we can collectively homeschool our children, which I would love, and have the classroom in nature, right? We are going to need all hands on deck. And now is the time to develop those skills so that when this happens, we will be able to share among one another those things that we are good at. And it may seem scary, but it will be an incredible feeling of a return to our power. A return to our power. So all light workers on board are called to come and assist in this new world. So I encourage everyone to openly share your gifts, and because the world needs us. The entire universe is waiting on you. So I wanted to ask if anybody wanted to share. Anybody have anything in particular that you think that you may be able to offer when we go step into this fifth dimension? Any services, any talents, or even things that you haven't even done that you're like, you know what, this keeps popping up in my head. I wonder if this will be good to pursue. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello. Well, of course, I've got like many things going on in my head. But because since I just recently moved here, I've been here 5 months. Within the first month, I was so drawn to plant fruit trees.
Nice.
And I planted 17 fruit trees, including some stuff that
Wow.
I have in the house that can't get cold, like lemon tree, bananas. I
Wow.
just have this feeling of sharing fruit with people, giving fruit to people, trading fruit. I just have this like, I don't know, it feels really powerful.
Wow.
And I recently met some of my neighbors who are growing corn. And so I was asking him about the corn. I mean, it's gone now, but I had watched it for the past 5 months. And um, so I said, hey, I also grew garden. So I had broccoli and cabbage about to be ready. I said, do you want some of that? And he said he would love that. So I dropped that off at his house. And then he later brought over a bag of corn kernels from this special corn that he grows. And so every time I see him, now he's growing lettuce. It's almost ready. So he's going to drop off lettuce. And then my neighbor, another neighbor next door, she just got us both a whole bunch of asparagus and seeds, and we're going to share it. We're going to split it. And then I have a friend who I just found out does woodworking, and she's going to teach us how to make those wood beds, for your gardens.
Wow. Wow.
So all that just kind of, besides all the sewing stuff, but that's like, wow, yeah, I
Is
can
that
feel it.
it? Oh
That,
my gosh, Rebecca, that's amazing. I know where to go when I need some organic food.
yes.
That is amazing. Yes, we will.
Yes.
I mean, farmers are going to absolutely be a desperate need. People who are able to grow food.
Well,
That's
it just even just growing it for yourself, like because it can
mhm,
be an overwhelming feeling. The fruit trees are relatively easy, to
mhm.
plant and then hope they do well. It's right now it's a stick orchard, I call it. They're all tiny and but they'll be pretty, they'll be flowers, so I'll get joy that way. But I grew a lot of just from the time I moved in, I just started planting. I started digging up the yard. Like Jesus says, and I thought I'm going to have all more grocery or more. I'm going to have somebody help me cut out a whole section of my grass so I can plant more garden. But I really enjoyed it, just going out in the garden, cutting broccoli and eating it. Like, so starting in the way that it's not overwhelming, where it's just for you, is
Yes,
a good feeling. But I can feel
yes.
that other stuff happening.
I'm so intimidated by planting. So that anybody who's able to tackle that, I started planting some like vegetables in my like by in the house by the windows, and then these little bugs started flying around, and we were just quickly becoming overwhelmed by buzz. But it's something that I've always, I'm like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure this. One of those things, like, right, it's a mental block.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Well,
Thank you. Did anybody else have anything? Did you have anything,
Hi,
Margaret?
Loretta.
Yes,
Yes, um, just to add to what, I'm sorry, her name just slipped right out of my head.
Rebecca.
Rebecca said, I had the same deep feeling, buy seeds, organic seeds, and keep them.
Nice.
So I bought organic seeds, and I buy organic like bell peppers and lemon and oranges, and also keep those seeds. So I have been doing those things for a couple of months, and also organic eggs, the eggshell. I dry them and grind them and keep them because here it's good for planting. So I also have gotten that deep feeling that we will need to plant. So it moved me to I need you to buy organic fruits, vegetables, whatever, and keep it because there will become a time when it will be needed.
Yes.
That's about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Yes, that's it. And like Margaret said, what we are guided to do, and will be guided. It'll come to you. It'll come to you. Whatever your contribution is, whatever gives you joy, whatever you get so excited about, that is a clue into what journey you're supposed to take, what you're supposed to share with the world. So I love you all. If nobody else, Khadija said, wow, bragging equals despair. That is so true. Yes, thank you, Khadija, for highlighting that. Yes, according to Jesus in the Course in Miracles, bragging and, that kind of energy, it's a form of despair. It hides something desperate. Desmond, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were saying how the greatest form of love is God's love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, us, we try to, and we try to put our understanding on what God's love really is, right? So I was reading this book. It's called Being in Love by a man named Osho. And he had a quote, and I just wanted to just give this. He said it was called The Nature and the Nurture of Love. And he said that love cannot be learned, it cannot be cultivated. The cultivated love will not be love at all. It will be like a plastic flower. So when you learn something, it means something comes from outside. It's an inner growth, and love has to be your inner growth. Is to be authentic and real. Love is not a learning, but a growth. What is needed on your part is not to learn the ways of love, but to unlearn the ways of unlove. The hindrances have to be removed. The obstacles have to be destroyed. Then love is your natural, spontaneous being. Once the obstacles are removed, the rocks thrown out of the way, the flow starts. It is already there, hidden behind many rocks, but the spring of love is already there. It is your very being.
Wow. Why does that remind me of A Course in Miracles? Rebecca's nodding her head like that. Wow. That definitely screams of A Course in Miracles. Who did you say, who was the author?
His name is Osho.
Osho. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. That is so true. Love is our natural state. It's our natural state. It's just a matter of, like you said, removing the blocks. And once you remove those blocks, which are the ego or things that we've learned, like you said, along the way that we're off track, once those things are removed, your natural state is love. That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Desmond. Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome. I love y'all, and have a good night. And thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Talk soon. Bye.